Welcome back to Defense News. The F-35 has, of course, grabbed headlines in terms of performance capabilities in recent years. But what do the pilots think? Defense News Associate Editor Aaron Mehta spoke to John Venable, a defense expert with the Heritage Foundation, who surveyed some to find out.
Fighter pilots are naturally skeptical, and when I started reading all of the articles about 6 years ago, 7 years ago about the F-35, you start to get your own mindset set. So what I did was go out and try to prove or disprove how the jet performs, and I went to 2 different bases in the Air Force, interviewed 31 different fighter pilots, F-16s, F-15Es, F-15Cs, and A-10 folks, and I asked them questions about the performance of their previous jets. When they gave me that as a baseline, I used it to go on into the F-35, and what I found out was pretty startling.
Well, let's talk about some of that. So maneuverability is one thing we hear a lot about from critics of the F-35. They say it's not as maneuverable as an F-15. It's not as maneuverable as an F-16 even. What did the pilots say?
I asked a series of 5 questions on maneuverability specific with regard to fighter pilots and the employment of an airplane. Everything from starting off a fight at high speed with a decent high aspect, all the way into standing a jet up on a tail and going slow speed. And hands down, the pilots picked the F-35 over their former fighters. You know, it's hard to fight your first love, but each one of them picked the F-35 over their previous jets.
One of the things about the maneuverability we've heard is the question of if it gets into a dogfight with international aircraft, how will it hold up? How did that match up?
Yeah, Aaron, this is a great question, and 5 questions that I asked with different scenarios, 5 different scenarios, everything from a BVR setup 100 miles away all the way into a short-range dogfight, offensive and defensive. And over 80% of the responses that they picked were for the F-35 with its current restrictions. Now, the F-15, the F-16 are both 9G platforms. The F-35 is currently limited to 7Gs, and its control laws, the computer that governs how fast and how rapidly they can maneuver the jet, still is dampered to a point where they want the airplane not to be able to depart controlled flight. So as those laws lighten up and as that G restriction gets relieved next summer and they're a full 9G jet, I don't think there's anybody in the Air Force who would pick their former fighter, at least a 4th generation bird, over the F-35.
So what about CAS, close air support? Because that's been another big issue. We hear people say the F-35 is not a close air support platform. It's eventually supposed to replace the A-10, which of course is beloved in that mission area. What do some of the pilots, especially the A-10 pilots, say about that?
Yeah, my first assignment was as a forward air controller. My first airplane to control in a close-in air support role was an A-10. And I think anybody who's been in that community loves that platform. It was designed for it, and it does it extraordinarily well. The 5 A-10 pilots that I interviewed, each one of them raved about the F-35's situational awareness aids. It doesn't have the gun that the A-10 does, and the community that's associated with the A-10 is extraordinary, and that's something we don't want to lose in the airplane. But I think in a 5th generation world where you go into an area denial situation, you're going to want to be in the F-35. Low threat, Afghanistan type of situation, absolutely, A-10 can step up and do the job extraordinarily well.
So realistically then, one of the challenges has been how do you keep bringing the F-35 up while also keeping the A-10 in inventory, which is something Congress has made clear it wants to see happen. Is it realistic to be able to keep both those planes in the future?
It's a double-edged fight. Congress is basically limiting the services budget, and they're doing that because of walls and stops that they're up against. And the Air Force has got to use the funding that it's given in order to refurbish and upgrade its fleet into a 5th generation world while sustaining the capability that it's got as best as it can. And right now, those ends aren't meeting, and the Air Force has got to make some tough decisions. I think the A-10 is one that they can keep for the time being. Purchasing a new aircraft right now with a wave of debt that's going to hit them in the 2022 timeframe, that wave of payments that are going to come due, be very, very challenging for them to pay for a new jet.
There's been talk about an A-10 F-35 fly-off. Is that a good idea? Would it actually show you anything?
Yeah, the fact that both airplanes can do the role extraordinarily well is just a baseline fact. I flew the F-16 in combat in 2004-2005 Fallujah. My team of F-15E and F-16C model guys stepped into the role because the A-10, we didn't have enough platforms in the Gulf to do it. But those airplanes delivered the ordnance even in close proximity to troops in an extraordinary manner. The A-10 was designed to do it, again, coming back to the community in a high threat situation where you've got folks that are moving from both sides in ground combatant role. You got to speak the language, and preserving that community is the most important thing about keeping the A-10 alive and well now until we can get a follow-on that preserves that jet. That's the challenge.
Last one, the Air Force has talked about whether it needs to speed up the F-35 buy. General Carlisle, the Air Commander, says he wants to see that. There's some question about how that would actually happen. Is that something you believe needs to happen? And if so, what could be a potential trade-off?
I'm a big fan of General Carlisle. I worked with him in the Pentagon. I know that as the Air Combat Commander, he has the right sight picture for what the needs are for the active duty and the reserve force, Air Force-wise, and what our guys and gals on the ground need. Unfortunately, in the current budget situation and the crunch that's going to be with us for the next several years, accelerating the production line of the F-35 may be a challenge that's too big. The one thing that I would encourage everyone in the Air Force and on the Hill to uphold is the current buy plan for the F-35. Right now, we're cashing in F-35s to pay for other things. Deferring those purchases is how that conversation goes. But whether we'll ever see those jets again in the end game or not is still in question. We need to purchase the current buy order right now and make sure that that stays as the influx into the service.
On this week's Money Minute, sponsored by Navy Federal Credit Union, personal finance expert Jeanette Mack outlines 3 tips to begin investing.
If you're interested in investing, you're on the right track because it's a great way to build wealth. Getting started may seem daunting, but it's actually easier than you think. It's as simple as setting aside money for saving. Saving and investing are nearly one in the same, so mastering the art of saving is a great way to start. If you're a service member or a young professional new to the workforce, try using a savings account that automatically deposits funds from your paycheck. Most people invest for retirement, which is smart. Your specific goals will help determine the timeline for investing. How soon do you want to reach your goals? The more time you have, the more risk you can assume, and the more rewards you can reap. If your window is smaller, you may want to look at lower risk options. Always check in with a financial advisor to make sure your strategy matches your goals. Now that you know how easy it is, start investing. And with the right guidance, you'll be one step closer to reaching your financial dreams.
Thanks, Jeanette. We'll see you next week. When we return, an effort to preserve local military memorials. You're watching Defense News.